All right, welcome Culinary Essentials. So today's highlight is macaroni and cheese. So the reason why we're doing this particular lab is so that you can demonstrate costing. So recipe costing is essential in the industry. If a chef doesn't know how much a dish costs, then it's impossible to know how to price on a menu, and therefore would most likely result in a restaurant failing in the first year or so. So with this lab, you are going to be costing out what the price per serving is, and then also calculate what a common menu pricing would be. So with our mac and cheese, I'm just going to go over my mise en place that I have here. So one thing I have going on right now is a pot of salted water ready for the mac and cheese. The mac and cheese at weight is 8 ounces, but in volume measure, it works out to about 2 cups. Then I have 2 tablespoons of butter already in my saucepan, and then another tablespoon for the topping, which would be mixed in with the panko crumbs. Then I have 1.5 tablespoons of flour, which is equivalent to 1 tablespoon plus 1.5 teaspoons. And then I have 1 cup of cheddar cheese. You could use any cheese. The only cheese I wouldn't recommend is mozzarella. It's just not a whole lot of flavor in there. And then 1 cup of milk. Could be any fat milk percent. And then I have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. And it does call for fresh parsley flakes. I did not have any here at the school, so general rule, if you're going to use dried, you half the amount. So it was 1 tablespoon of fresh, so then I have 1.5 teaspoons of dried. We have a teaspoon of spicy brown mustard to give it a little bit of zing. And then finally 4 ounces of cream cheese, which is 1/2 a block. So we want to wait for our water to come to a boil so we can cook the mac and cheese and then begin with the sauce. Okay, so over here we are going to begin the white sauce, otherwise known as a bechamel. So bechamel involves a roux. A roux is equal parts butter and flour. And so that's your thickening agent for your sauce. So we need to melt that down and then cook the flour into the butter and then gradually add in the milk. So once we have that melted, then we're going to add in the flour. And whisk continuously. And by cooking the flour, it helps to give the sauce better flavor so that it doesn't taste like you've added flour into the sauce. So you want to cook that down a little bit. And I'm going to bring the temperature a little lower. It is sizzling quite a bit. I'm ready to gradually add in my milk. So if you add this all at once, you're going to get lumps in your sauce. So it's just a gradual flow of the milk, or you can stop and then really give it a good whisk. You want to make sure that that sauce remains smooth the entire time. You don't want those little flour lumps in there. Add a little more. And then as you're mixing this and it's starting to get a little thinner, then you can be a little bit more deliberate with the amount of milk that you're adding in there. And then we're going to bring this up to a boil. And then we'll cook it for 2 minutes before we add in the cheeses and our flavorings. All right, so this has been cooking for about 2 minutes. Now we're going to add in the cheddar, the cream cheese, the mustard, and the salt. And you want this right down to a low, salt and pepper, a low temperature. And then we're going to stir those in so those will melt down until they're really nice and smooth. All right, so we have melted down all of the cheeses in here, and then we have our mac and cheese that is cooked. We're gonna add that in there. And I don't have this on right now, so that's turned off. I'm going to stir that in there. And then over here, I have the 1 tablespoon of butter melted. I'm going to add in the panko breadcrumbs. Stir that together. All right, and then this all goes into a casserole dish, so any oven-proof dish. Pour that in there. I was gonna mention too, instead of the brown mustard, if that flavor is not you don't like that, you could use something like sriracha, give it a little bit of heat, which is also good. Sometimes I do that. And then we're going to take these panko crumbs and just sprinkle that over. And then a little bit of the parsley on top of that. And then this is gonna go into your preheated 400-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, just until those panko crumbs are really nice and golden. Give it a little bit of crunch. All right, there we go, into the oven.